Hey there, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to talk a little bit about EFT tapping, which is still kind of new to a lot of people, even though it's been around for a while. It's becoming more popular slowly. It is actually based on the ancient techniques of Chinese medicine, particularly acupressure and acupuncture, the meridian system of energy channels in the body, which is closely related to the Indian version of chakras and prana. In Chinese medicine, they call the energy qi, and they call the channels, instead of nadis and chakras, they call them meridians. So if you've ever had acupressure or acupuncture, we use the same points. There's certain points in the body where the energy flows through. And we use some of those same points as we work through our tapping routine. Tapping is, EFT tapping is emotional freedom technique. That's what it stands for. And what this does is, much like a lot of the other holistic practices that I teach, it helps to remove energy blockages and move stuck energy through the body. So you're tapping on these certain points in specific places, in a specific order to move this energy. And then what's a little different about tapping is you speak aloud through a script. So it's great to have a guide for tapping, because what I'll do is I'll focus on a specific problem you're trying to work on, right? Where I'll just film a routine, a sequence for a problem like anxiety or inner calm or whatever it might be. So it's like tapping to release anxiety, for example. And what we do is we speak through phrases. I say the words, you repeat them after me. And then as you tap through these points and speak the phrases, you just notice what emotions are coming up, what's being released, what feels different. And you will notice that things actually move. I started tapping during the beginning of the pandemic when I was having so much anxiety. I didn't know how to let it go or release it. I was stuck in my house all day. I wasn't working. I just had all this nervous energy. And I found this technique of tapping, and I started doing classes. And I realized that I was so much less anxious and felt so much better after I tapped that I started doing it pretty much every single day to help relieve the immense amount of anxiety that I was feeling. So I know that it works because it worked so well for me. It's helped me so much in my life. Every time that I make time to sit down and do a tapping routine for myself, I feel better, I feel clearer, I feel more energized, I feel more vital, I feel less anxious. It's just a very simple and easy technique that anyone can do. So it's awesome because it changes things, it's super effective, it'll do something for you every single time, and anyone can practice it. You can just sit in a chair and practice it. So just wanted to give you a little overview of all of that, how I came to tapping, a little bit about what it is. So now I'm going to walk you through the tapping points that we use and the order that we use them in, because I find that in my own practice, when I am practicing, it helps me a lot to have my eyes closed, to repeat the phrases after whoever is guiding me, and just really tune into what's coming up for me. With the eyes closed, it's a lot easier to focus, to go internal, to not get distracted by what's going on around you, right? So I wanted to show you what tapping points we move through and where they're located, so that way when you are going through an actual practice, you don't have to keep your eyes open. You can always peek if you need a reminder, but this will really help you tune in, focus, keep your eyes closed, and so that you are able to move through the tapping points as they cue them without opening your eyes. All right, so we begin tapping on the outside of the hand. It's about halfway between the wrist and the top of your pinky finger on the outside edge of your hand. And when we are tapping, this is something that you probably need to know. You can use however many fingers you want. You can use 1, 2, all of them. You can switch it up. Doesn't matter how fast you tap. Doesn't matter how hard you tap. You can also switch from one side to the other if one of your hands starts to get tired from being lifted and tapping through all these points. You can use both hands if you're doing stuff on the face where you're tapping and you have both hands free. Up to you. I switch a lot and I switch it around a lot. It doesn't matter as long as you're moving through the points in the correct order, switch it up. What is important is that you're tapping in the correct spots. I've noticed a lot of tapping videos that I have seen, the coaches they're pretty vague about where you're tapping. But these are specific points, right? These are specific points on your meridian. Like when you get acupuncture, they're taking a tiny needle and putting it in a very specific spot. So it's actually important that you tap in the right spots. You will notice as you move through them, you'll play around and you'll look for the spot, and it's the spot that feels a little tender when you tap it. On the outside of the hand, skin's thicker, you might not feel that tenderness as easily. So you want to just try and find that spot halfway down the side of your hand. And it will feel a little different. It will feel a little more tender, especially as you continue to tap. So that's our first tapping point, and the one that we'll come back to after we finish the whole routine. And we do the routine several times throughout a sequence. It depends on how long the sequence is, but you will move through the whole sequence as we do a video or a class several times. So outside of the hand is usually the cue that I use when coming back to this place. And then you move to the top of the head. It's going to be about halfway between the crown of your head and your hairline. So not all the way back here, not all the way up here, kind of in the middle. You can play with it and you will notice when you find that spot, oh, okay, it's a little tender there. That's where you want to be. It's right in the center. So I found that spot on myself. I'm used to it because I've practiced a little. So just play around, tap around a little bit until you find that sweet spot right in the middle where it's tender. And that'll be top of the head. That'll be the cue for that. And then you move in between the brows. So this is important. We don't want to be on the third eye. We are on the inside edge of the orbital bone, just inside your eyebrow. And again, you can tap just on one side here. You can tap both sides or use two fingers, although that feels a little awkward to me. But you could do this. I like to just take one finger, tap on the inside edge of my brow bone there. A little harder to use double fingers, but you could try. So that's inside the eye, or that's in between the eyebrows. And then outside the eyes is going to be right here, and there's like a little divot, not quite your temple. We don't want to be up here on the temple, but we want to be just outside the eye on the bone. So like kind of on the top of your cheekbone. And again, you'll be able to find it, move around a little. Okay, not here, right in there. Right there, you'll feel that. And that's going to be outside of the eye. And then we move underneath the eye. So right, again, you'll feel the orbital bone here below your eye. You want to go right to the top of that orbital bone. And this one for me is really tender. So I find it right away. I'm like, oh, okay, there it is. So that's underneath the eye. Then we move underneath the nose. This can be a little harder if you don't have a lot of space here like me, right? So I have to kind of do this. And then tap right underneath the middle of the nose, about halfway between your lip and the bottom of your nose. So again, it might feel a little funny. You might have to move your lip. I usually can only use one finger. And that'll be underneath the nose. And then you move to the chin, so onto the chin. Again, about halfway below or halfway between the bottom of the chin and the lip. And this is a little, I don't feel as tender here. Depends, I think, on your chin shape. I have kind of like a lot of like chubby fat on my chin. I have some padding on my chin. So just about halfway between, move around, you'll find that spot. So that's on the chin. And then onto the collarbones. So you want to be right here where your collarbones meet. There's like that little knobby part. You want to be right on that little knobby part, right in the center there. We don't want to be, I see a lot of like this, just kind of like all over the place. We want to be right here on those collarbones, right in the middle. And you can use just one hand. I like to use two because this one feels good to me. And again, you'll feel just like a little tenderness when you're on those bones. All right, so that's on the collarbones. Our final tapping point is the one that's weirdest to most people. You're gonna lift one arm or the other, doesn't matter which. You're gonna find a spot about 2 to 3 inches underneath your armpit. So it's kind of maybe like right where your bra line is if you're a woman. And you will, again, find that tender spot, but it takes a little work. You have to kind of move around. I know where it is because I've done this, several times. And when I do this one, I'm like, oh yeah, that's tender. So you find this spot, just a couple inches underneath your armpit, move around, look for it, find that tender spot. And then when you find it, you're gonna tap there. And again, you can switch from one arm to the other as you move through the process several times if your arms get tired. So this is your final tapping point under the arm. And then in the sequence, you'll get cued to move back to the outside of the hand. And we'll go through the whole thing again. Take longer in some points sometimes, take less time in some parts sometimes. It just depends on the sequence. So just to reiterate, your tapping points are the outside of the hand, top of the head, between the brows, outside the eye, underneath the nose, on the chin, on the collarbones, and underneath the arm. And then you go back around in a circle. So I hope that that's helpful for you. I would definitely watch this video before you do any other tapping practice, just so you have an idea of what's going on, and so we don't have to go through the whole sequence every time that we do a class. This way you're prepared, you know what's going on, you're ready to get into the actual work and make some changes, make some real differences in your life with this procedure, with this technique that is so, so, so helpful, especially for all of us who are struggling. I know that all of us are struggling with stuck emotions and stuck things and worries and fears and anxieties and everything that we have going on inside us right now. So I hope that was helpful. If you have additional questions, drop me a comment or a message, and have a great day.